Good evening, everyone. This is Melissa and Marz here with Uncharted Conversations back again to have a chat that might make some of you guys feel a little uncomfortable, a little bit twingy. Some of it might even hit you a little hard, and you might feel like you got some anger going on. And I ask you to kind of look within to try to figure out where that anger centers from, why, this conversation specifically kind of speaks to your core. It's focused around addiction. And addiction can come in many forms. You can be addicted to drugs, alcohol, sex, food. There's so many different things that you can be addicted to in life that can make very unhealthy things happen. So today we've got Dawn and Liza with us to talk about their experience around addiction, so we can kind of dive deep into what that has looked like for them and their experiences surrounding it. So I guess first I'll kind of introduce myself. So my name is Melissa, and I use she, her pronouns. Marz and I have been kind of plotting and planning this amazing adventure of Uncharted Conversations for us to really dig deep and talk about things that are truly on our heart, and have those conversations that really need to be had, because those people really need to have voices. So this is the platform to kind of make that happen. So I'm excited to get to know Dawn and Liza better. I know Marz knows them better, but I'm excited. So I'm going to pass it on to my amazing partner, Marz.
Well, hello. Thank you. We are going to kind of kick it off. So I'm Marz. I do go by they, them pronouns. I'm super excited to have Dawn and Liza here with us, as we are all on the HIV Stop Sesame campaign together. And yes, I have known them for quite some time due to advocacy and the work that we do. However, I'm always really, really interested and really excited about these conversations, because I always learn more and learn something else about you guys. So I'm excited to be here. Just for the sake of location, I'm in Albany as far as kind of the area that I represent with the campaign. I will go ahead and pass it off to Liza.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Liza, and I use she, her pronouns. And I am in Upper Western New York area, physically right now I'm sitting in Niagara Falls in my car. But I live in North Tonawanda, which is a city between Buffalo and Niagara Falls.
All right, and Dawn, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Absolutely. My name is Dawn, and I am in Buffalo, New York. I use she, her pronouns. And if you see me turning my head, it's because my granddaughter's here, and I'm probably telling her to sit down, be quiet, or stop it.
That is okay.
Multitasking at its finest.
Yes, yes.
Don't you know it?
So Uncharted Conversations is kind of like Melissa said, but it was inspired kind of by these types of conversations, not only the ones that me and my partner have been having, but also like different times where pre-COVID, when we were allowed to meet up, or different Zoom conversations that have just gone longer and further than you ever intended or thought they would. But I wanted to kind of create a space for that, and we wanted to kind of help make that kind of more of a community oriented thing. So I hope that we can, I don't know, get deep today. So to get deep. So to get started, I don't even know actually honestly where to start.
I'd love to start with hearing each of their stories.
Yes. So if would either of you like to start?
Go, Trotter.
Liza, you go, because it's your day.
Oh, wow.
Wait, Liza, wait. I'm sorry, wait. So we're super excited for this episode today, which is happens to be focused on addiction, and Liza is celebrating 24 years. Yes, 24
Yeah.
years sober. And you
My
know,
girl.
so I just wanted to take a minute to recognize that achievement and accomplishment. I think Melissa even had she even had
Did
a
you
little
see the
hand up
cake,
for
Liza?
you.
What
Or the
cake?
look,
She's holding
Melissa
it back up.
has it.
Uh,
Look.
it's a cinnamon roll with a tea light on it because we're original.
That is awesome. Oh, thank you. So, wow, that is awesome. I've never had a virtual cake given to cake given to me virtually. I appreciate that. That is the most cutest thing ever. Thank you so much. So I guess I will start. So 24, yes, I am celebrating 24 years free from drug and alcohol use. I was an IV drug user. Heroin was my drug of choice. I've tried all kind of stuff, and kind of gravitated to the heroin thing. I come from a long line of addicts in my family. My father was a heroin addict. My uncle was in the game, and cocaine, weed, you name it, they've done it. My grandfather actually died from alcoholism. I think I was about 2 months old when my grandfather died, my mother's father. Also, my mother, again, long line. I tell my kids, we don't come from aristocrats. We come from a long line of addicts, right? I don't know, 24 years ago, I made a decision. Well, I didn't really make a decision. I was kind of forced into a decision. I had about 8 months left on parole, and I went back. I had relapsed after coming home from prison, been to prison. And I was given a choice. You can go back to prison, give me 8 months, or go to long-term. I had never been on long-term treatment, and I thought about it, but it was like, I don't want to go back to Bedford. I tried that, didn't really care for it. And people laugh when I say that, but I literally thought which one it was the best of the two evils, right? So yeah, I ended up in long-term treatment, halfway house. I took the long way around, and got introduced to 12-step meetings, self-help 12-step meetings along the way. Started to get involved in that, and which has brought me to this point right here. As far as my journey with addiction, well, I got, I kind of got into it because it was something to do, and my daughter's father was selling drugs, and I kind of joined along that way, and then I became my best customer, basically is what happened. I never dreamed. I always said as a little girl, watching my mother was an IV drug user also, and my grandmother raised me, but watching my mother and my father, I always told myself I wasn't going to be like that, and somehow I ended up worse. But that is also the way that I contracted HIV 28 years ago, which is a miracle also on itself. Yeah, I was really, I gave up everything. I gave up my kids. I gave up basic human necessities, housing, food, like literally walked away from everything, ran the streets. And I spent 15 years on the streets of Buffalo, chasing one more is basically what I was doing, but it's been an interesting journey since not using drugs. There have been a lot of blessings. I've been able to go to school and get my children back in my life, and great friends and family support back that I did so much damage that I didn't think that was a possibility. So yeah, I can go on and on and on, but that's a little bit about, and please feel free to ask me whatever you wish. So I'm going to pass it on to Dawn.
So, yeah, I started using drugs Well, okay, similar to Liza, I have a long line of drug addiction in my family. My mom used heroin and was an alcoholic. My dad used heroin and was an alcoholic. I got taken from my mom when I was 7 years old because of the drug use in the house, abuse, molestation, things like that. So I ended up in the system when I was 7. And I was in the system until I was 18. Um, so I got raped while I was in the system, molested still. It wasn't even the safest place for me. So when I aged out at 18 and had my first daughter, I didn't know how to cope with any of the things that had happened to me. And again, like Liza, watching people, it started out smoking marijuana, drinking here and there, and then, watching people sniff cocaine. And then I did that, and, smoking cocaine and cigarettes. And the funny story about how I started smoking crack, I was 24 years old, and my foster sister was a crack smoker at the time. She used crack. And I remember every Friday when I would come to pay her for watching my daughter while I worked, she would always immediately, we lived down the street from each other. So after I would give her the money, I would come back maybe an hour and a half later just to hang out. There was nothing else for me to do. And she would always be in the bathroom, and everybody knew that she was using. And finally one day, I don't know, something got the best of me and just wanted to know what was it about this thing that kept her in the bathroom. And I just kind of was like, yo, let me get some of that. And she was like, no, you don't want to do this. And I was like, yes, I do. And she gave in, and, I started smoking crack, and it became my life. But I was what you call, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for, Liza? Functioning addict. Because, I stayed working and stuff, and I lost my kids for about 8 months, but I got them back because, like Liza, I would use and then I would stop. I would use and I would stop. And for a long time, I thought I was controlling it because I got 2 of my degrees while I was still getting high. I always kept a job and, kept myself up. Basically, a lot of people didn't even know I was using crack. And truthfully, I didn't like to be around people when I was using. I was a person that liked to get high by myself. And I thought nobody knew I was getting high, but there were people who knew, and my children knew. And it got to a point where I started selling stuff out of my house, my children's stuff, and started doing things that I said I would never do. Having sex for drugs. Like I said, selling stuff out of my house, selling my food stamps. It did start interfering with me going to work. I did try to go to inpatient. That didn't work for me. I tried NA, what Liza goes to. That didn't work for me. It just finally took one day. I just, I kind of hit my rock bottom. And for me, it was spiritual that kind of brought me out of the cloud I was in. And one day I was at church and I just kind of fell on my knees and was just like, God, if you take this taste and desire from me, I promise to never do it again. And that was almost 15 years now. I don't really count like Liza does, but I know it's been a long time. Now alcohol never was an issue with me. So yes, I still have a drink here and there, but I have not smoked crack in 15 years. So every day is a good day for me, like Liza, you know what I'm saying? I know that I am 2 seconds away from getting high again. There's stories about me getting into stressful situations and kind of finding myself almost, but being able to snap myself back. So, like Liza said, I guess if you ask me some direct questions, we could go from there.
So I definitely appreciate you guys sharing your stories. It seems like there's some parallels there, right? And, thinking about addiction, thinking about it from a standpoint of it being an illness, right? It typically tends to run in the family. They definitely see some genetic components to it. But what I'm also noticing from people that I've spoken to that have, issues surrounding addiction is that there's typically, or a large majority of the time, some type of sexual abuse component. early on in life that then triggers this response and this need to kind of fill this void when it comes to addiction? I know Dawn had discussed, you know, something like that happening to her, and molestation and things of that nature. Liza, not going too deep, but did you also experience that type of thing younger in life?
I know. So yeah, you're right. Like there's so many people that even in these meetings that you hear share about that piece, that sexual molestation and abuse and that. Fortunately for me, I didn't, that was not the case. But I think that behind all that is trying to mask the pain, right? So we're all trying to mask the pain. We're all trying to stop feeling or thinking about that trauma or that incident. Or, you know, I tell people I'm not well. I've been a victim of physical violence, right? With my son's father. He was very physically abusive. So I really don't do well with men trying to tell me what to do. I don't do men, I don't do well with men that may be in a authoritative position trying to use that to, you know, intimidate me. Like it'll like I lose it. Like I'll be like, I don't give a shit about this job or you, and I don't know who you think you're talking to. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's just an automatic response that happens to me. Um, so, but fortunately, I didn't have that. But I think it's just, we're all trying to, I was trying to, you know, I grew up thinking I was never good enough because my parents weren't never there. Not really understanding that my parents were battling their own demons.
Right.
And it wasn't until later on when I learned about addiction, learned about me, what made me tick, I was like, oh, that's why. It had nothing to do with. But still today, that feeling of feeling less than or not good enough comes up, especially in romantic relationships.
I know that one very well, Liza. I know that one very, very well. And that is so fucking true.
Yes.
Ooh, you just hit my heart. You
Mm,
just hit my heart. It does. Those little insecurities and those little nuances and those little worries and those little things that have just kind of been embedded along the way, they tend to come up at the times when we're the most vulnerable, right? Because that's when fear is there. That's when fear is present,
right.
is at the times when we're the most vulnerable. So when you're getting ready to open your heart, there's that fear there of, oh God, I'm getting raw, I'm getting real. I'm scared. And then that self-sabotage starts.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's that self-sabotage piece. Because so I just started a new relationship about a month ago, and he is like literally, he's like a little kid when it comes about me, and it's so weird.
I think it's been longer than a month, but go ahead.
Okay, who's counting, Trotter? But all right. Like I catch him staring at me, and yeah, like I'll catch him staring at me, and I'm like, why are you staring at me? He's like, do you understand how beautiful you are? And it makes me cringe because I don't really believe that I'm that beautiful.
Yeah.
I really don't. Like that thought about you're not that good looking. You're
Mhm.
not that, all those the self-doubt and the self-talk, right? That, you know, and we had this heated conversation because he's like, what is wrong? Like, what's going on? And I'm like, listen, I've been doing everything for myself for so long that I don't know how to let anybody come in and do anything for me. He was like, what? Like something simple, like, baby, let me get that grocery bag. I got it. I don't need you to get my, and I'm not like, just like that. Like, how dare you ask to carry my grocery bag? Like,
I'm an independent human. I can do it on my own.
my
I'm just
bag.
And I think that you know plays a part in all of it. Because you know I think back to the relationship. Well, I don't even know if they were relationships. So I think back to them, just the stuff that I allowed myself to be a part of because of not feeling worthy, not feeling good enough to even expect more than what I was getting. But when that, and then even that played a part in my weight. I was talking about this the other day on our live, like something I never had said before. I was smaller than this for a long time. Some of it was from when I was actively using drugs, right? But then when I started getting myself together, I was at a kind of sort of perfect weight. But then I started getting scared because one, I really didn't think I was all that. And two, I didn't want to get too small because I thought people would think I was sick. So hence I gained all this weight. But I think I still deal with, like, I know my worth now, but I don't think I know how to be in a real relationship. But all that plays a part from the past, abuses, molestation, rapes, the drugs. Like, I never went fully into counseling for any of this. So I think all of that creeps up a little bit and stuff. So it's like, I still struggle with stress eating. I remember telling Liza during COVID, we used to talk every day. And I think if we didn't have talked every day, I think I probably would have relapsed. There were plenty days that I was feeling so isolated, so like, oh my God, I'm in this house by myself. It's just me. I can't take the thoughts, right? And there was a night that I sat in my window hoping I seen a dealer. God didn't allow that to happen, but that's why I always say I'm 1 second away from using, right? So I'm not immune to going back to doing it. But it trying to deal with when you have these emotions that before brought you so much pain and you use that drug to stuff it away. Because I know for me, whenever I started thinking about what happened to me as a kid and my mother leaving me, and I'm like, Liza, I didn't understand why my mother gave me up at 7. She gave me to the state, like she signed her rights away. And I couldn't understand why she did that until I got older into my own addiction, because she felt like I'd be better off with them than with her because she was, in full addiction mode. Things were happening to me with her and she thought she was doing the better thing. I didn't understand that because, I was like, you should fight for your kids. And so when they took my kids for them 8 months from me using, like, I was like, I'm done. I'm not doing it no more. And I got clean for those 8 months, got my kids back. But of course, I went back to using again because I didn't stop because I wanted to stop. I stopped because I needed to do it to get my kids back. And then I fell right back into what I was doing before because, at the end of the day, I tell people all the time, you can remove yourself out of certain situations, areas, and think, okay, I don't live there no more. I'm not going to get high. But you take yourself with you everywhere you go. So if you wanted to do it, you're going to find a dealer. I don't care if you in the Bahamas, in the mountains, you're going to find a dealer if you want to. So.
Absolutely.
I can actually kind of speak to that a little bit just in relativity. So I myself, I have never been addicted to drugs, so I can honestly say I'm addicted to caffeine, which is its own devil. But my relativity actually isn't with that. It's really with my mom, right? I was also like addiction runs in my family. So both my biological parents were addicts. My father, an alcoholic, and my mom, an alcoholic and a heroin addict. And so, and my mom, I was adopted by my aunt, my mom's sister, when I was, I think, 6. They took me in when I was 3. And so my mom had like those 3 years, if you will, to kind of get her act together. Me and my brother were both taken from her in a certain sense, put with family, fostered by family, thankfully. But, had the family not been at the right place at the right time, basically, we could have ended up in the state system and been in, actual foster care with people we didn't even know. And so as I've gotten older, I asked my mom in the past, my mom passed when I was 17, but I asked her, like, did you not want us back? Like, in that 3 years, she just couldn't get herself together. She, kept choosing drugs, and it was, at that age disheartening, because you're just like, what the hey, you don't want me? When in reality, and I didn't learn this till actually after I moved here, so this was within the last like 10 years or so. I had a really close friend of mine that was an addict, and he was sharing with me his experience. He at the time was sober and kind of sharing his experiences with me. And so I asked him that like hard question of, when you're using, like, what is that thought process like for you? Like, can you make rational decisions? And he was explaining it to me that you can't. He's like, when you're using, it's all you're thinking about is using. And then once you've used, all you're thinking about is how you're going to use again and how you're going to get that. At least that's what he told me. And, that rang true with me, just because I'm just like, that. So like it helped me in understanding, in my own closure with my mom and stuff, of why it was that it was so difficult to get herself together in those 3 years, and addiction kind of won for a little bit. But as I got older,
I guarantee you, after two, not even the just worrying about when you're going to get high again, you go into this whole where you're like at your bottom, like you're so like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. Oh my God, I'm not gonna do this again. You know what I'm saying? The kids, because that used to be my thoughts. Like after I got high, every time I would spend all my money, I would break the crack pipe, throw it in the garbage. I'm all ashamed. The kids are looking at me stupid. But then as soon as I got that money, all of that shame and guilt went away, because my body instantly needed that drug. And I didn't care. I remember there were nights, and like I talk about this, stop, Bella, stop. I'm embarrassed to talk about this, but it's real. When I would give my kids money to hold, and I would say, and these kids were like 9 and 10. So, putting a 9 and a 10-year-old through this, whatever happens, don't give me this money, right? And then smoke up all my money. And I remember one time having my daughter by the neck in the closet because she wouldn't give me the money that I gave her. But in that moment, I could not control myself. I wanted that money because I needed to get high. And after all of that, I thought about it. You almost killed your daughter so that you could smoke crack. Mm-hmm. But I still kept smoking crack.
My mom,
it's crazy.
That's.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us, Dawn. That was raw. That was absolutely raw. But know that you're not in that space now. And your lived experience can now teach others and give others the strength to be like, hey, like this is where I was, but this is where I am. And now you're a powerful beast. And clearly a badass grandma. So, you know what I mean? Like that. Through lived experience, we have our highs and our lows, right? We feel on top of the world one minute, and then the next minute we're literally in the depths and the rock bottom of life. Like, I don't have a drug addiction, so I can't speak to that, but I was addicted to food, and my highest weight was 329 pounds. And that's a lot of weight to carry around. And I've always, since puberty been a big human. But, that was my comfort. I would sneak food. I would hide food. I would eat in my room. I would go to McDonald's and get several meals and eat them in my car and throw the evidence away before I got home. Like I would hoard and hide and do all of the things. And then I got to a place where I did the opposite, because I thought, okay, I'm in control, right? Like I can control this. I've got this. I can do this. And then I stopped eating. And then I became bulimic and anorexic. So I went from one addiction, overeating, to another addiction, starving myself. So where I thought I was, I'm losing weight, I'm doing good, everybody's complimenting me and I feel great. And then I get down to 100 pounds and look completely emaciated, but I look like all the cute little white girls that I go to school with, and being a thick mixed girl, I was like, ooh, I'm finally competing. Like I'm
Come
skinny like
on
all the
now.
little white girls, right?
Come on
I'm
now.
not built like a little white girl. I'm just not. So I don't know what my head was telling me that I had to get down to that itty bitty teeny weeny little size. But I think the thing that hurt the most for me is even going through all of that, my parents were also dealing with their own addiction. So they didn't even notice that I was losing weight like that. They didn't even realize that I had gotten to a point in my life where I was skin and bones, because they were dealing so much with their own lives and their own addictions that they didn't even notice that their daughter was suffering. So when I finally got the help for my addiction, all of these little pieces started coming into play. That's why I don't drink as much, because I don't ever want to see my kids and be at a place where they're struggling and I can't be there to support them. I always want to be cognizant and mindful, because I know that I didn't have that. And my parents are, they're a lot more intentional and mindful now, which is fantastic. But, those triggers, Liza, right? Those triggers that just kind of pop up where something happens and you want to pop off, or something happens and all of a sudden you're scared and you're shy and you want to like cower in the corner. It's at the drop of a hat. And it can send you back down that rabbit hole quickly of me wanting to grab a bag of chips and start eating those carbs, or someone wanting to pick up a crack pipe or a needle, just for that momentary instant relief, just for that fucking second of being like, okay, all right, I've got this. I can do this a little bit longer. I can survive. I can survive just a little bit longer because I'm okay now. And then it happens again. Another stressful time, right? We realize we can't cope because all the stress is building up. Plus, we're coming down from that dopamine response from whatever our addiction is. And then we got to do it again so that we can be balanced. So I know with me, like singing, being funny, laughing and joking, like I have outlets that kind of help me to digress so that I don't go to those unhealthy places. Do you guys have outlets that you have found that really work for you to kind of get you over those hurdles?
So for me, one of my most important outlets is coming to a meeting, is calling my sponsor, is talking to other recovering addicts. And, I've learned how to really be honest with myself to then in turn be honest with them. Where I have no problem like getting deep and talking about whatever and looking at the things that I've done. Arts and crafts, right? I do, this art. I know Marz does arts and crafts, like this art and crafts thing. Like I do service work. Like I said, today we were having a speaker jam and we were selling food in there because we're working on having a convention next year. And those are the things that I love to dance. Like those are the things because listen, I love, like, I don't need nobody to ask me to dance. I just love, there's something about being in the middle of the dance floor and hearing the right song that gives me the sense of freedom, man. It just, I don't have a care in the world, and I'm a pretty damn good dancer too. But, the disease of addiction, I understand, is out to kill me. It's got one job. Its only job is to kill me. So for me, because at this point in my life, not that it hasn't said to me, oh, today might be a good day to get high. It might not come at me like that, but there's no reason why I should have 100 and something pairs of shoes, right? None. Like I have this thing for shoes. Right. But I think it also stems from because my grandmother raised us and, she raised us on social services, man. And I always in the wintertime, by the time the snow hit, my boots had holes on the bottom and I was sat in school with wet, cold feet. And that's where it comes from. That's exactly where it comes from. So like you said, being cognizant of, yo, girl, you don't need another pair of shoes. Back up off of it. Arts and craft supplies. You don't need to go in the Dollar Tree again. You were just there. You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
understanding clothes. I've just started going through my clothes because again, doing community stuff. I'm part of a small group of people. We go out, we pick a random neighborhood, we set up tables, we bring sandwiches, we bring clothes, we bring toiletries, we bring love, right? That's the stuff that I've been getting into and doing. The HIV Stops With Me campaign, going out and speaking and doing events. And it's like, because like the drug, all that stuff stops working. It's not filling the void. It's not filling the void, man. So it's taken me this long to like really learn what makes me tick. You know, when I first started working in this field, you know, they used to do a lot of go out for happy hours on a Friday and da. And I would go hang out at the bar. Now, I mentioned earlier, when I was using, I consumed alcohol 5 times in my lifetime, excluding these 24 years that I have not used any substance. 5 times. I don't like the taste of alcohol. I don't like the smell of alcohol. I don't like it. But it told me, you can go sit at happy hour and have 1 drink. I'm like, bitch, you don't even like alcohol. And these are the things that I have to tell myself, like, are you crazy? Because eventually after that, that glass of wine or that Moscato or that frozen fruity drink on the Caribbean cruise line, it's going to lead me to something else.
There you go.
Right? I already know me. It's going to lead me to something else. So it's finding those things, spending time with family. And, you know, we're going to do a naughty bingo in August, like, you know, stuff like that, right? Doing stuff with other women when we turned it into a girls' night, and just doing things like that, man, that give me an outlet that will, and Marz can probably attest to this. When you sit down to do arts and crafts, it's the same thing like dancing, like you just get lost and you know, and you get to create and you're thinking about ideas and you're putting things together. Your mind and your hands are busy. And next thing you know, it's 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yes.
That sounds just like Marz. That sounds
There
just
you
like
go.
I'm like, oh God. I'm like, oh my God, where's the time go? I gotta go to bed.
It's 3 a.m. I have to work in the morning. Bang!
Right.
I was mixing paints for 3 hours before I was painting. I'm sorry.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
I'm going to
Yeah.
bed.
I'm
bad.
going to bed. Yeah. So finding those things, man, that are healthy, you know, that keeps that negative thought out of my mind. And I'm not perfect, you know. I'm like, Dawn, I done some dirty shit, man. I done some dirty shit. I done, you know, like I said, I had a daughter that was adopted, man, she was 6 months old. And the last time I saw her, she was maybe 3 days old, and she was going through heroin withdrawal. You know what I mean? And that was a moment of clarity that I had in my life, man. And I stood there in the hospital. I did that. Nobody did that. I did that. You know, only fortunately, God saw fit to put her back in my life 3 years, man. And, you know, and it's just been amazing with her, you know, and allowing me to be, you know, I got grandchildren. I just had, hell, now I'm a great grandmother. Jeez, help me. But
Yeah, she didn't beat me, baby.
so, you know, getting into those things, man, and finding those people, those good, not, you know, everybody's got good and bad, but the people that support you, that encourage you, that love you, that are there for you, that'll hug you, people that see you, man, people that see you. So
People that take you at your best and your worst, that are there for you at your best and your worst, without complaint, without question, without using it against you. Those core
Right.
people. Yeah.
Those core people.
I
Yeah.
get it. What about you, Dawn? Is there anything that you use to cope that kind of gets you through those hurdles sometimes?
So I think now, my spirituality, so church, and not so much the people, but the worship part of it is something that, you know what I'm saying, kind of keeps me centered. You know, me and Liza used to laugh about this all the time because Liza's not a church person. And so, you know, we would have these conversations, but that's kind of what brought me out of the cloud that I was in. And then of course, my family, getting to know my children and them getting to actually know me, being not in active use, and of course my grandchildren. But I like to travel. I will say at one point, like in 2014, I got married. And me and her, it did whatever. We ended friends. And so I've kind of been by myself, for the last 2-3 years. And I've been trying to find something to fill my free time, because I don't hang out. I go to church, I go to work, I get my grandkids, but I do have a lot of alone time. And I do need to find something, because, something I've learned that, when you're alone with your own thoughts, it allows stuff to creep in. So I do have all these things that I do that fulfill me and fill that hole a little bit that I've created in myself. But I can honestly say that I have to find something else, right? Because I have a lot of free time sometimes, and for me, that's a little dangerous. But I don't know, because like I'm not really into arts and crafts. I go to a bar to hang out every blue moon. I really do, as I've been thinking, like watching Liza and them go out and do stuff for the community. I'm really thinking about maybe starting to get into something like that. But mainly my spirituality is what has kept me anchored, all this time. And just, knowing that I lost my family for a long time and I don't want to do that. I want to be the best grandma that I can be. And so that sort of is one of the main things that these grandkids keep me centered, because I don't ever want them to see me, unfortunately, how their mom and dad had to see me. So for me, that's what it is. And like Liza said, being around positive people, I had to cut a lot of people out of my life, because I said, if you don't bring me peace and you interrupting my peace, then you can't be here. And so I think that's another reason why I don't really have a lot of people I hang out with. Liza, and I have like 2 other friends that like really I talk to and hang with. So I don't have a huge, because when I was using, like everybody was my friend, right? Everybody was at my house doing whatever. I was the fun auntie, and the kids knew they could come because we was gonna be drinking and getting high and not paying them no attention. And you people fade off when you're not the party person anymore. When they can't come to your house and cause chaos, and you outside fighting people for no reason, and you don't even know why you fighting them. So when you're not that person anymore, people drop off. And I had to finally come to a realization that that was okay. Because for a long time, I felt like if I didn't have a lot of people around me, I was missing something. And I think in a way still, I sort of kind of am a people pleaser type of thing. Like, I don't like people to be mad at me. But I do know that I'm not going to allow anybody to interrupt my peace. God has allowed me to work too hard to get to this point here, to be in a peaceful space. But I would definitely have to say my spiritual walk and my kids and grandkids.
So I'm going to challenge you for a second. When you think to yourself, not wanting to do something to people please, or not wanting to upset someone, or, wanting to do something that you may not necessarily want to do, but to make someone happy, think to yourself, what's the worst thing that could happen if I say no? The worst thing that can happen is you lose a person from your life. But truly, if that person was meant to be there, designed to be there, then that small little thing that you're saying no to, which is a healthy boundary, wouldn't have bothered them so much. So in actuality, you saying no is saving you and giving you more peace, because you don't have that toxicity in your life anymore.
The saying no is more like, so Liza knows, I have one child that drives me fucking nuts. And it's really hard it's really hard to say no to them. And I'm always like, okay, Liza, after this, that's it. I'm not doing it no more. And then look up and it's like, and I really think, the more, because I've thought about this, I think because I feel like I took so much from them, they lost so much in my addiction. You know, there was things that they weren't allowed to have or do because drugs were more important to me then. That even though I don't, and they don't do it now, because for a long time my kids used my past against me, right? So they would, talk to me certain kinds of ways and,
Yeah.
demand stuff of me and bring up my past and constantly like feeling like I had to continue to apologize all the time. And then it just got to a point where I was like, listen, I'm not that person no more. You're not going to keep making me apologize. Either you accept me how I am or you don't. But I think sometimes not even them making me want to do it, I feel like I owe them stuff. Like
I
I need to pay back what I took.
I feel the exact same way. When I was, had really low self-esteem and was very, very heavy, I ended up in relationships with people that really mistreated me, that weren't very nice to my children. And, I have one particular son who was diagnosed with ADHD, and he is very reactive. And it's very easy for him to get upset and angered. So in moments where I'm saying no to him or being that parent, he likes to kind of push that back. Well, I wouldn't have this issue had you not X, Y, and Z, right? But it was because of that addiction to food that got me to a place where I felt unhealthy with myself. And because of my parents' addiction, right, which then trickled down to me because of that mistreatment. So I had the negative headspace going into my addiction, which made it that much worse. And then I have these two little people that I brought into this world that I'm trying to make happy at all costs, recognizing that I'm fucking up at every turn. And every time that I think I'm getting somewhere, I fuck up again. Who now have gotten to the point where they know, hey, I'm at a place where I'm testing boundaries, right? I'm a teenager and I'm testing boundaries. And I know that if I throw this here, I'm going to get this in return. But then you have to wake up when you get to that point, when you become that adult and you kind of face that addiction and come to terms with your reality. You kind of have to put your foot down. You get to a point where you can't allow that manipulation to get to you. So like there was a time where, he turned 18 and he felt that he was grown. Yeah, he's technically an adult now, y'all. Technically an adult.
Yeah, don't you
And
love
he
that?
felt like it was okay to live under my roof, but not tell me where he was going. And that was the first time he had ever done it.
Mm.
And so we had a very heated conversation. And I was like, you know what? You don't respect or appreciate the things that I do for you. So you know what? I'm going to show you exactly how much I do for you. I'm going to show you. So no more rides to work. Your to and from work, you figure out on your own. Uber, bike, hitchhike, I don't care how you get there, but I refuse to waste any more of my gas, time, energy, or effort on you and your punk self when you clearly have no respect for me. Y'all, it has been 6 or 7 months. And guess who has not driven him to work? I love my child and would go to the ends of the earth for him, but I love myself more.
And guess which child is better at communicating now where it is that they're going and when they're going there.
Oh yeah.
Boom.
They're twins, by the way. They're twins, the exact same age. So
wow.
yes.
Freaking frack.
Hey, are they identical twins?
They are.
Oh, damn.
They are. And they both just turned 18.
Mm-hmm.
So they grown now, right?
They grown now.
Yeah, you found out you're not so grown. So, those boundaries, they empower us. And the more that I started establishing boundaries with my kids and started establishing relationship boundaries and friendship boundaries and all of those things, the more powerful I start to feel. And the more worthy I start to feel. You still have moments where you kind of go back into that negative mindset and that negative self-talk. But then you find things and outlets. You spend time with people that bring you joy. You give back, you give service, you advocate for others that may not be able to speak up. And those little pieces of joy start to come back, right? And you start to build on those relationships with people that have the same mindset. So the more you go out and do those things, the more people you're going to meet that are a lot like you. And then you start building your village. but you're more selective. Like, I'm sorry, but I've been burned so many times by people doing some crazy shit, y'all, that I'm selective. There's an interview process. Like, there's like 7 or 8 interviews before you become my friend. Because
Wait, Liza, did you interview me? I think I interviewed you.
Probably.
I
But
want
you
an
know what?
interview.
You know what though, and it's crazy that you say that, because now you know when it makes me go back to that question you asked. You know, what is my place? You know, truthfully, you know, I've said this before. Like when I started working at my job, that kind of gave me a purpose too, right? That was an outlet for me, right? Because it allowed me to be able to offer what I had been through to someone else in hopes that maybe they didn't have to fully go down that rabbit hole that I went down, right? And whether that was because they had just tested positive for HIV, or because they were in addiction and possibly getting ready to lose their children, and you know, thinking that there was no end, you know, and then I could share my story and support them again, like you said, Melissa, without judgment, right? Not judging them, not making them feel like they were pieces of shit, you know. And even if they decided they didn't want to fully stop using, working it out with them to help them, like Liza said to me, harm reduction. You know, maybe if you don't use 7 days a week, you only use 5, and being okay with that, right? And when I came to my job, I have to say, I was not one of those people. I came into my job, you have to stop using drugs. That's it. And that's all. Ain't no in between. I don't understand why y'all giving people needles. You know, I was one of those mindset people, because in my mind, that was how it had to happen for me. I had to stop. There could not be no in between. There couldn't be no, oh, maybe I just smoke crack once a week and I'm gonna be okay. No, I know where that got me. It got me to smoking every single day, basically selling everything out my house. But after I started working at my job and I went to a harm reduction conference, it like educated me so much. When I came back, I truly understood the harm reduction approach, right? And working with Liza, when Liza came to work with me, you know, learning her story and other people at the job that I talked to, you know, addiction is different for everybody.
Yeah.
For some people, stopping is not what they want to do, right? They don't want to. And I'm okay with that. I just want them to do it safely, right? But
I know.
Go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, like, because you said something, I started thinking. So I was making fun of this guy, one of my friends in the rooms, and we were, because I can't go to Canada. They won't let me into Canada, right? I don't even look at Canada now. But
She
my
got to
resentment.
Mexico and left me.
But yeah, went to Mexico, but Canada, I got my little resentment with Canada. But we were talking about felonies and this, that, and the third, and he was like, "Yeah, I don't have those." And I'm like, "What do you mean you don't have any felonies? Like, how did you survive like getting high without felonies? Like, that's a requirement. Like, you know what I mean?" And we were just like, yeah, like that's one of the job requirements. You gotta get a felony if you want to keep this job. Like,
That's how you know you're serious.
That's how you know we're serious about this job, right? But
You
no,
he wasn't really using.
No, you're right. He wasn't really using. Like, what were you doing? Playing around? But no, like seriously, like that man lost his family and his children and all this stuff. But he was in that position that he literally was not committing crimes because he had money and he can go use. But he still reached his bottom where he lost his family. Right? We got another one where we make fun of him all the time, you know, in a loving, jokingly way. Like, he spent 3 hours in jail, and sometimes he'll talk about it. You know, when I went to jail, we'd be like, "Please, don't you dare. Don't you dare," you know, but it's jokingly. But for him, that was enough to like, yo, what am I doing? So everybody's bottom is different. Everybody's story is going to be different. Whatever makes us come here, whatever makes us use or takes us to that point in our life, again, all we really, you know, it might have just started off because we were partying with some friends, right? There was a girl, Sharon, she was put on pain management at 17 years old because of a sports injury.
Yeah.
And ended up being a heroin addict and IV drug. So, you know what I mean? Like everybody, you know, I think sometimes society get oh, you know, and I hate this word, but they use it like once a junkie, always a junkie. No, bullshit. Bullshit. Like we come out of that. You know, we come out of that. And the thing is, here's what I realized, that what we need something, I needed something to replace not getting high. I needed something to replace not trying to figure out and trying to find ways and means to get one more, right? You can't just stop using, go to program, okay, goodbye, have a nice life. It doesn't, no, because I don't, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? I spent 15 years on the streets. 15 years on the streets. It's like if you take a homeless person, give them an apartment, and they've been out there for so long, you may very well find that person sleeping on his floor.
Exactly. You don't give them the tools.
And have a bed, and he might be sleeping on his floor because this is what he's been doing. You know, so yeah, it's like, you know, we all have to find that thing, and then at the same time trying to be vigilant in knowing that any given thing, it necessarily doesn't even have to be a traumatic thing that makes me pick up again. No. It could be a happy occasion.
Yes.
It could be, it doesn't matter.
Yes,
you know,
absolutely. You could be celebrating. It could be a happy occasion and you celebrate and everybody's using because it's just this one time and we don't do it often, but we're celebrating. Oh, okay, it's a celebration, and boop, right back in it again.
Right. Everybody else that went on with your lives and I'm back on the corner.
And what's the saying, Liza? When you haven't used and you use, what is it? You go back. I don't know. What am I trying to say?
Oh, you pick up where you left off.
Yeah,
absolutely. Pick up where you left off. You pick, you know what I mean?
And it might kill you because where you left off, your body can't take if you're not been, you know, using for so long. But then too, like, you know, like I said, you got to find that thing. Like, it made me think about, you know, like I'm really thinking, like, I've had a lot of different addictions in my life because sex was an addiction for a while.
Right.
Because from the time when I was molested as a kid and as I grew up, I was taught that sex meant love, right? So if you don't have sex with me, that means you don't love me. So I had to break myself out of that addiction, right? Because I was like having sex because if you love me. You didn't have sex with me, so you love me. And I got to a point where I needed it all the time, right? And so it became sort of an addiction for me. Like the more I think about these things, and so now I just don't do it at all. But, you know, but it's like trying to find that balance. It's crazy. Like I'm about to be 50 years old. And even in this moment talking with you guys, it's just making me realize like I still have some things that I need to deal with because it brings me so much closer to the possibility to pick up again. Whether it's crack, having sex, you know, with the way I shouldn't be, you know, unsafely, putting myself in a relationship that I know is bad for me, but because I need the attention, you know, my mind won't allow me to see, you know, what I'm doing is not right. So it just makes me realize, you know, I still have a lot to work on, you know, and then like Liza said, the shopping, you know, I have a purse addiction. I've got a room, and I mean a room, Liza will tell you, full of purses that I don't even wear, but because I can buy it now, right? I didn't have that before. And a full walk-in closet in a room full of clothes that I don't even wear, right? Learning how to budget. After using drugs for so long, I didn't know nothing about budgeting money, having good credit, right? So it's a change of a lifestyle, and it's a continuous change, right? I'm not where I want to be. I still got the rest of my life to get there, and I may never do it. But I know that today I haven't picked up. So I could hold on to that. I know I haven't picked up.
Well, that's something big to hold on to, though. That's a big thing to hold on to.
Yeah.
And it sounds to me like you need to date yourself.
Right.
It sounds to me, honestly, truly,
and
like
Melissa,
you need to date yourself.
I have. Now I'm tired of dating myself.
But you need to figure out what you like, what you don't like. I'm not talking about being
I
all
have to
nasty.
get
Look at you
out.
being all nasty, Dawn.
No, but I have to get out. That's another thing. Like I told Liza this the other day and a friend of mine, like, I don't go out to be around people to even try that, right? To date. Because I've dated myself. Liza will tell you, I'll go out to dinner by myself. I'll go to the movies by myself. Like, that's not a problem. But I really think I'm afraid to even dive into that ocean because guess what? I don't know what a real relationship is. I really don't know what love is, right? I don't. I know that when I got married, I can truly say that this woman, even to this point, if I got extremely sick, she would drop everything she was doing and come see me. But we still had a toxic relationship because we both had things we needed to deal with. So I still can say today, I don't know how to love somebody. I don't know how to love somebody. So I
don't think. Go ahead.
No, I'm saying like I may want to, but so, you know, and my addiction and addictions that I've had, whether it was drugs, sex, you know, being a people pleaser, all that plays into play, right? So I don't know how to do it because I've never did it. And so am I afraid? Right. Absolutely. Absolutely, I'm afraid.
But you have to learn to love yourself first.
Oh,
yeah. It's hard.
It's very hard. So I'm struggling with my weight right now. Difficult. So that's another thing, you know. So I'm like, if you don't love yourself, how you gonna allow somebody else to love you? I'm not comfortable in my, I'm not comfortable in my skin right now. I say that all the time. I can't even stand looking at myself naked. So I know damn well I ain't gonna let somebody else see me right now, right? But then I don't even know if I'm gonna be happy after I have this surgery. I've been thinking about that. How about if I have this surgery and I lose the weight and I'm still not happy? Then what? What do I do then?
So I've gone from 329 pounds to 145. Okay. That's I lost more than I weigh now. And I still am not comfortable in my skin. I'm still not comfortable in my skin. And it's a mindset. I have to have my head catch up with my body, and it hasn't gotten there yet. Now I go to therapy every week. So like we're working on it. You know,
you're a work in progress, right?
Yeah, your head's got to catch up. So you've got to do the work here in order to catch up. Because if you don't, then you're just going to be stuck.
And this here is a mean thing. This thing, I got this thing, and my ex calls. He used to say, "Are we playing the word game again? Because you didn't tell me." Like he would say something, and I would come out with something totally different. And he's like, "What? Where did you hear that? That's not even what I like." You know what I mean? I know that this will play tricks on me. I will see something and be like, "Huh? Did I just see what I just saw?" And it wasn't even that exactly. You know, the mind is a terrible thing, man. And that's why I be trying to, I'm at the point in my life where, my body wise, I'm not where I want it to be. But at 55, I can say today with all honesty that I got a little bit comfortable with walking across the room, butt ass naked, and having a man just watch me. Yes. That shit was so hard.
Yes.
That shit was so hard.
Yes, Liza.
Hard. You know, I got my little muffin top and my and I'm just, but that was just so. But I
what
was
they
like,
call that, a fupa?
My little fupa.
Little fupa. Yeah.
Yeah, the fupa. And I'm like, oh my. And while I was doing it, when I did it, I was like, I can't even believe I'm actually doing this shit. Like, girl, and again, it's that self-talk. It's like, girl, you've been to prison. You could do this. You're fine. Like, what I mean?
Talking yourself through it.
I had to do that when I went to college in 2016. I graduated from college, but I cried many nights thinking, I don't need this shit. I'm almost 50. Who gives a shit about a degree? Crying. Like, why did I do this to myself? And it was that same thing. Girl, you are living with HIV. You survived Bedford and the streets. You gonna let Buff State take you out? That's how you going? And it was like, oh, hell no, we gonna do this shit. I was like, you know what I mean? So it's just trying to stop the madness up in here, man. And it gets me, it's getting me now in this relationship. And here's the thing. And this, I just had an epiphany.
Uh-oh.
I think he's noticing because he really does care about.
I told you that.
Yo, this guy, for the first time in my, I think I had one other guy, man, and he died in prison, and we used together and all that, but he was an amazing person. But this is the first other time in my whole entire life that I am in a relationship with somebody that actually sees me. And I am so terrified to let them in. Terrified. Because my biggest fear, I almost did. Listen, I walked away from a 19-year relationship and I was crazy about that guy, but I'm more crazy about my clean date, right? Like, I need to stay clean no matter what happens in my life. No matter what happens in my life, I need to not use, man, so I don't die. You know? But he sees me, and you want to, not to tell his business, but this man has an eye disease and he's going blind. You talk about the universe being fucking crazy. So he was like, oh yeah, I saw that little scar in your right ankle, right above. I was like, what the fuck? How did you? I forgot about, like, he sees me.
So then, Liza, what the fuck do you have to lose? What do you have to lose?
And I tell her that every time we talk about something, I'm like, Liza, don't lose it.
This.
But sometimes we're our worst enemy, right? We are our worst enemy, because I will talk myself out of something and, I know it's right. But again, that's when the people around us come in play, right? Because Liza has talked me out of many of things. I probably would have been fired by now.
Oh, yeah.
And I've helped her come down. We used to have this thing. She'd pick up the phone and call me and say, outside, right now.
Smoke break. Outside right now, smoke break.
You know what I'm saying? And we would do it to each other. So we kind of miss that now that we're not in the same job. So now it's her calling me, are you on a meeting? You know what I'm saying?
Yes. And that's why these conversations are important, right? Because the more we can have conversations with people that understand our experiences, the more that we feel less alone. And if we feel less alone, then we're feeling more empowered. We have someone to reach out to. We have someone that we know we can go to that understands those struggles in those moments, that we can trust. And we also are teaching people that they're also not alone. So as people are listening to this webcast, we might have just said something, oh, that's addiction, or, oh, that's what that looks like, or, oh, I didn't think about an outlet. All the little pieces that we're talking about that we've already lived through, that we're currently living through, people haven't even started yet. So by having these conversations, it's helping to facilitate that transition and that change, which is why Uncharted Conversations is so important. So I am so excited to be able to hear your guys's, I literally feel like there's two pieces of me. Like, I see so much of myself in Liza, and I see so much of myself in Dawn. So I'm so excited that I got the opportunity to meet you guys. I see you on many more shows, because this was phenomenal. And I'm living and leaving here being like, wow, like, I literally just met two people that I've seen, but I've never interacted before. And yet I feel like they get me. Like, I feel like they understand my struggle and they get where I'm coming from in a way that other people may not. So it's interesting how people put people in their paths. It's like people are in your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. They put
absolutely
in those moments, in those specific times, to have those conversations, to have those epiphanies. So, Liza, I encourage you to walk naked across the room and let him look at you and view you for as long as he can, because those are the things he's going to continue to envision. Those are the things that he's going to see and that he's going to remember. So even when his sight is gone, he's still going to have those memories. So let him look at every inch and scar and beautiful piece that's in you.
Yes.
Because it's beautiful. Clearly, he thinks it's beautiful. I need to remember that too. You know, I need to remember that and have those mindfulness moments too and get out of my head, you know, when it comes to, you know, my partner Marz. You know, and then Dawn, you're like, I'm afraid. I don't want to let anybody in. I'm afraid that I'm going to get to a point, you know, where I don't know how to love. Well, you do know how to love because you've got your grandbabies and you've got your kids. So the love is in you. You just got to figure out how to make it to a romantic place. And that means you need to feel safe. So it's about finding someone to feel safe with and to build a safe space with. Don't push yourself. Find that love within yourself first, right? So that you can feel comfortable and confident. So when you go out into the real world, you're exuding that confidence. You're going to attract, like attracts like. So you put that energy out there, you're going to get the energy back. You're going to find your person.
Right.
You're going to find your person. They're out there, but you got to love you. And it sounds to me like with this campaign and that photo shoot that you did, honey, all kinds of fucking fears. You're finding your way. You're finding your way. I'm excited to see how the rest of this campaign pans out for you, and that you might find that you draw attention to some people who might want to holler at you. So
it is a life changer. The campaign is a life changer.
I'm telling
Definitely
you,
a big step.
yes, I think it's beautiful. I'm so
I
excited.
appreciate you guys so much.
too.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you so
appreciate
much.
for having me. If there's a wedding, I'll invite you guys.
Yes.
I'll
Yes,
be
you
a
gotta
maid.
be on that list.
I already know I'm a maid of honor, so I ain't worried about all that. You know.
All right.
Well, I'm ordained, so I'm just saying.
Oh,
Okay, Melissa.
Okay, good to know. Good to know. Good to know. Absolutely.
But thank you guys for taking time to get to know us.
Thank
You know,
you.
Thank
do
you for
want to
having
let
me.
everyone know who's watching that this is our lived experience. We are not telling you
Yes.
what to do, how to live your life, what choices to make.
Absolutely not.
We're simply talking to you about our lived experience and hope that something that you've said, like that we've said, that you've heard, clicks or resonates within you to help you to be able to find a safe space to get the help that you need to realize you're not alone. Please feel free to reach out to us. If, you know, Dawn is someone that you gravitate towards and you feel the need to reach out, or Liza is someone that you gravitate towards, or Marz or myself, reach out to us because we're here to connect you. We're here to support you however you need and meet you where you're at, because it's all about community. So thank you all so much for listening and being
Love you both. Thank you.
Yeah, love you so much.
I want to take 1 minute just to kind of end us with a moment of silence for those that we've lost before us to HIV or addiction or anything like that. So I just want to take a minute to do that before we sign off.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Marz, that's a cool ass hat.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
You're
That
definitely
looks sharp
hearing
on you,
it.
baby.
Thank you. So I just want to remind everyone watching, if you're struggling with addiction or if you're struggling to find, you know, somewhere to get tested, whether it be for HIV or any other STIs, remember that you can go to hivstopswithme.org.
Right.
And remember that you can, there's a resources page, and on that page, it will show you, no matter what part of New York State you're in, it'll show you a bunch of different testing sites and things like that, clinics that you can go to get tested or find treatment. If you're in the Albany area, the Albany Damien Center helps people living with HIV, but also people who are maybe homeless or seeking treatment and things like that. So, you know, look them up, Albany Damien Center. They're
Right.
over on Madison Avenue in Albany. And you guys, where are you guys located? Like, would you suggest maybe a treatment center or something out by you guys?
Well, I mean, if you need to be tested or you need treatment for HIV, Evergreen Health Services has treatment options for HIV, for mental health services, drug addiction. So they have a plethora of support
Yeah.
things that you can go to.
And they can link you to inpatient, outpatient, all that. They have,
Absolutely.
it's a one-stop shop there, so.
Yep.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being
Thank
here,
you.
ladies. You guys have
Thanks,
a good night.
Mars. Thanks,
Thank
Melissa.
you.
Love you both.
Love
Bye.
you.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Bye, guys.
Oh, I can't hang up.